Welcome to my channel. I'm Laura, the Tempted Baker. Today I'm going to show you a heart-shaped cake. And by that I mean a anatomically correct heart, sort of. It's going to be made with a strawberry homemade cake. And I'm going to use some Rice Krispie treats to create some of the anatomy of the top of the heart. It just makes it a little bit more stable. I'm going to fill in these cracks with some extra cake mix. It's kind of like when you make a cake pop and you mix some frosting in it, makes it nice and sticky. After this step, I'm going to stick it in the refrigerator, let it get nice and firmed up again, and then cover it with my modeling chocolate, which I've already done here. You're going to see me carve some different shapes into it. This is a pretty thick piece of modeling chocolate, so I've got a lot of flexibility with my design here. And I'm looking at some reference guides that I've collected over the years and some internet pictures just to get all these areas nice and precise. But I'm going to add all kinds of fine detail to it. And I have a picture here that I sort of laminated. This cake is nice and cold from the refrigerator. So as soon as I put that modeling chocolate over the top of the cake, it started firming up a little bit. This cake is my homemade strawberry cake, and I will post a video to that in the coming week. Bake this cake at 350 degrees in 4 6-inch round baking pans. I used my baking spray that helps with sticking, and it took about 25-30 minutes, depends on your oven and how hot it gets. Next, we cool those cakes at room temperature, stick them in the refrigerator, and then layer them with a layer of buttercream. Put it back in the refrigerator, let it get firmed up. Some people put it in the freezer. Depends to me on the crumb of your cake or how moist it already is. And I also use a simple syrup with my cakes, especially the ones that I'm going to be spending a couple days decorating. And simple syrup is something you can make in the microwave, on the stovetop, and it's just a liquid form of sugar that you can coat your cakes in. And I'm not talking drench them, but give them a nice little layer. Some people even put certain flavors in their simple syrups, and it just elevates the flavor of your cake. So that's a good way to keep your cakes moist while you're working on them. Right here I'm just smoothing out all the parts that I've put too much pressure on as it starts warming up to room temperature. That's a fondant smoother. I believe I got that one on Amazon. Not necessarily a Wilton one, but. And then you'll see here I've already added some arteries and veins. I'm going to be working on the texture of my aortic arch. This is a ruler, a metal ruler. It made the perfect sharp lines that I wanted, striations in the muscle. But I'm going to go through and smooth those out so they don't look so artificial. And you'll see that here in a moment as well. But a lot of this tissue is the same, and therefore you're going to have repeated patterns throughout. Some of it's fat, some of it's muscle. So I'm just smoothing. The bottom is really ugly, but no one's going to see the bottom, so it doesn't matter. Just getting all those little details in line. My pulmonary trunk. I'm not a big fan of the auricle of the right atrium, so I'm going to be replacing that in a moment. You'll see a close-up video of me kind of covering it, and there were a couple reasons for that. One of the reasons is it needs to have a different elevation. So here we are. You can see the little bubbly spots that I try to make look like adipose tissue. Did not work out in my favor. So we are going to cover that part with some more modeling chocolate, and it's going to blend seamlessly into what we already have down. This is just another example of how sometimes you can plan a cake till you're blue in the face, but sometimes things just happen and you have to change direction or fix things. Here is just some simple aluminum foil. I rolled it up into a little ball. It makes great fatty texture. It also does good gravel. If you had some kind of cement or type theme that you needed to use it for, wood, you can use it for all kinds of things. Stone. Here I'm gonna go ahead and trace around all the arteries and the veins on the anterior portion of this heart. There's usually a layer of adipose tissue, I don't know the technical term of it, that binds these veins and arteries to the surface of the heart, keeping them in place. And then the fun part, painting it. I used about 4 or 5 different colors of red. Most of them had a little bit too much orange in them, and I had to counter that with some blue. But I'm gonna fill in the crevices and the deeper parts with my darker colors first. I'm also gonna go across these veins and arteries just because I know I'm gonna keep touching them with other color of paint, and I want to have this underlying color at the very end of the job. And the vodka also makes your food colors shiny when they dry on the surface of fondant or modeling chocolate. And we do want our colors to dry, so if you just threw a bunch of food color over this cake, it would stay wet. It wouldn't dry. A lot of the food colors are oil-based, and it just would be a gross mess. So even though it seems weird, all bakers use some kind of grain alcohol or vodka in their food colors. Having it painted like this makes me see some of the details that I might have missed, like the auricle of the right atrium is way too expansive. It almost covers that superior vena cava, so I should have made more of a definitive line between those two parts of the heart. But it's all a learning process, so I'm gonna cover it the best I can, and you can always add those muted textures or muted colors. You can always add highlights. Sometimes it's harder to take away the darker colors, especially red. And a little note for any of you future professional bakers or home bakers, red will change color when it dries, so that's why it takes a lot of red to cover something, a lot of concentrated red, and sometimes red has a funky, bitter taste to it the more you have to use, like in red velvet cake or dark red frosting. So you just have to be careful with reds. And I'm gonna add a little bit of brown there just to kind of mute out some of that bright red. I'm gonna do the same thing all over. It looks orange. I didn't realize I had a filter on my ring light, so it wasn't as orange, but it still had too much orange in it. I'm gonna go back over those veins and arteries. I poured some fake blood over the top of it, and it made everything come together perfectly. So that is the cake, guys. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I hope this cake thoroughly grossed you out. Have a great Halloween.